Hello, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes talking about Dolor and Shadow. I have a massive issue with talking really fast. I'm from New York, and I am fully embracing the New York minute. That's what I do. So I'm going to try and slow down for this. I'm going to be talking about Dolor and Shadow, which is a dark, epic fantasy, and it's currently rating 4.2 on Amazon, 4.44 on Goodreads, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and do a random reading. I love doing this, where I just open the book randomly and I read whatever it is that I open up to. I'm going to be doing this with Broken and Dolor and Shadow, which I'm doing now. I need to get a physical copy of my third book, which is really an anthology of To You. All proceeds, when you purchase To You, Amor Vincent Omnia is the book, and I'll provide the links for you. All proceeds go to cancer research. So I will go ahead and do a reading, and then we'll go from there. I'll go ahead and provide you with links and things like that. Dolor and Shadow ebook is currently on holiday sale for 99 cents, and the paperback has been marked down to $12 and change for the holidays. This ends 31st January. If you are broke or don't believe in spending money on books or have a gambling addiction, go ahead to Goodreads and enter the giveaway. I have a 20-book paperback giveaway for Dolor and Shadow at the moment, so the links have been provided. And now, Chapter 30. The battlement was quiet. Like sentinels, each guard stood at attention, peering into the shadows of hill and tree. Eric walked the lines of men. He studied the worry, the anxiety, the fear held within each face. It tightened the jaw, sharpened their sense, and collected the adrenaline that would flow through them. When battle began, the surge would force them on. But no army waited within those trees. Not yet, he had told the troops, but they will. Look sharp. And so they had done. Colin should be in the stables too. Eric entered the small stone passage of the battlement keep. He slipped down the steps to the courtyard where the 2nd Battalion waited in the open air. The warriors shifted nervously. The night had a chill, but the tension was thick, filling each Dokafar with a raw angst that bound the nerves. The wind passed through the city with a taste of a sweet cold as if it carried the morning dew of a distant land. Eric made his way across the courtyard and entered the corridor that would take him to the stables. Within the hall, the wind shifted, and a thick, warm air settled around him. Eric paused. Something wasn't right. The air was different. He reached with his scythe, touching the threads around him, and counted. Dagon behind. He must have followed. Colin ahead, with Leosavar. His heart eased, and he almost grinned when a ripple shook the strands of scythe. There was a change in the web that he knew sent his heart hammering. She's here. At once, Eric charged down the hall. "Colin!" he called. He felt the pull on the scythe tightened. He turned the corner where Colin came into sight. Beside her, the king looked as startled as she. For a moment, neither dared move. A second ripple shook the web, and just as Eric felt his foot leave the floor, he pulled on the scythe around him, throwing up a shield with it. The ripple became a solid pulse that struck the floor, throwing everything in the corridor to the air moments before Eric wrapped his scythe around Colin, himself, and Rune. The pulse ejected them from the corridor into the stables, where they struck the stone hard. And then there was silence. Shaking off the stun that accompanied the blow, Eric pulled himself to his knees and froze when his eyes found Colin. On the ground beside Rune, she lay unmoving. Already the Leosavar was up, trying to raise her from the ground. A bit of blood seeped where her head had struck the stone, and Eric lunged, dropping a hand to her brow. Her scythe was strong, and he could heal her easily enough, but he couldn't afford her to wake. Not yet. She won't comply. She must stay asleep until she's gone. "Take her," Eric said, not bothering to look up at Rune, although he could feel the questions he didn't ask. "She lives. She's fine." This time Eric did look at Rune. "But you must get her out of here." "Why? There is no time." He was nearly done. Her wounds were closing fast, but the Leosavar king made no attempt to move from Colin's side. "Take her horse," Eric said. "The brown Drestier. He rides faster than the others." He could feel the moments slipping by. "But I'm giving her to you! Now go, or you'll both be dead!" Eric cried. "She's Sikona. When she wakes," Rune shook his head, "I won't be able to hold her." Eric read the questions clear on Rune's face, and stared back with a look that asserted his warning. There was no time, no choice. Clasping his hand to Rune's wrist, Eric poured his scythe to the threads that slept within the Leosavar. There where the energy coursed, Eric linked his scythe to Rune's and pushed the lines, coaxing them awake, forcing them through until he reversed the flow of Rune's scythe. The Leosavar gasped and fell, catching himself on his palm so as to not fall on Colin. Taking him by the shoulder, Eric shook Rune to attention. "It's from the shock," Eric said. "You'll get used to it. Now go!" What did you do to me? Rune asked. I tethered your sleeping slave to the shadow that lies in the bottommost depths of the abyss, far below under earth. His heart will be pounding like a state of berserk. His strength won't ebb. If anything, he'll have a constant surge of adrenaline without end. I saved your life, Eric said. Now get! At once, Rune moved and took Colin up from the floor with an ease that Eric could see come unnaturally to him. The Liasva made his way to the saddled stallion and tossed Colin onto the horse. Eric felt the seconds slip by as if counting down the breaths to his timely death. I can't promise I'll be giving her back, Rune said, pulling himself onto the horse. Don't bring her back here, Eric said. If she dies, she'll die. Without question, Rune steered Astrid from the stall. And Liasva, Eric said. Rune pulled back on the reins and gazed at Eric. Don't tell her about this, Eric said. She won't listen. She won't believe you. Without a word, Rune snapped the reins and followed the path out behind Livspawn into the forest, allowing Eric a sigh that allowed him to breathe easily. Eric muttered a charm. The image of Borg that had masked his true appearance from the Liasva king melted away just as the air went cold. The color drained from his neck. Sweat beaded upon his brow. He knew that prick to the back of his neck, the drug-like perfumes of under-earth. How now, sweet Eric? Fan's hot breath grazed his ear, and his chest tightened. She's here, Fan hissed. Her voice spilled down his back like honey. I can feel her. And you have fear. He could hear her breath, drawing in his scent. I can smell it. Her words slithered from her mouth, and Eric cringed when he felt the tips of her fingers graze his bare shoulders. Stand back, witch, he growled, and watched the black of her eyes dilate with prowess. Where is she, Drui? Fan asked. Eric clenched his jaw, loathing the word, and she smiled. Delighted at her own cleverness, he mused. Fan repeated the word with a grin. Drui. It rolled off her tongue. She isn't here, Fan. The Fey goddess gave a plump pout that forced all his attention to her mouth. Her spells hung heavy in the air, and they worked to cloud his mind. Not here? She asked, feigning disappointment. But I feel her. She's near. She said I didn't give her the tincture, Fan. Eric watched her performance change to rage as she abandoned her game. I gave it to another. She's gone, Fan. Hate tightened her face, and her chest rose and fell with increased breath. Where? She seethed. Gunir. Spinning on the ball of her foot, Fan stomped toward the hidden passage. You can't go, Fan! Eric shouted as she moved her hand to transform, his words pulling her back. The Liasva have no Sade users. Their knowledge of the Sade is the same as men. You step 1 foot near Gunir, and Danon will know. Danon can detect the girl. Danon doesn't know the girl exists, Eric said, knowing he had her. Unless something such as the Fae approaches Colin, Danon won't know. You're out of options. Venom twisted her face, and she raised a hand filled with golden scythe. You lay a hand on me, Fan! Eric shouted over her threat. Lay 1 finger, and then what? You have only a few more breaths before Danon finds you here. Fear stripped her rage, and he watched with satisfaction as she glanced at the runes that lined his chest. You wouldn't, she said. If it means Colin will remain safe, Eric said, I will undo the spells that bind my scythe, also that Danon can find me. Kill me, and Danon will know. What then, Fan? What will you tell her when she finds you've killed one of her precious Drui? Fan twitched with a want to kill. He had her. Danon doesn't forgive, he said. You have no time. There are other ways for me to find her, Fan said. Others who will want what she has, so long as it isn't you. If I find her, I promise there will be no prison that awaits her, Fan said. I will kill her. Get in my way again, Drui, and I will kill you. Eric felt the fight in him rebound. The battle he thought he had won, he had only postponed. Her task having failed, she turned to leave when a step, too soft to be heard by most, earned the attention of the Drui and the goddess. There in the shadows, the Dark One stood, his long sword poised, his dark eyes fixed on Fan with such loathing as to make Eric's blood turn cold. Fan smiled. Her eyes glistened with amusement as if she had found a long-lost toy. You! Bergen snarled. Bergen, she purred, grinning and steadying him up and down with a look that made Eric's skin peel. Bergen's name in her mouth seemed only to darken Bergen's temper. Fey-whore, Bergen grumbled. Still burning? She said. Bergen tightened his grasp on the hilt, catching a bit of light on the blade. Faint lines of gold glistened from beneath the folded black metal where scythe composed its core. Still have my sword, I see, Fan said. Always in my grasp, Fey-whore, Bergen said. Fan scoffed and turned her venom to Eric. Drui, she said, bidding farewell. With a flick of her wrist she contorted herself into a raven and flew from the stables out through the corridor behind Bergen and back to the courtyard in the sky. Eric leered at Bergen, who leered back while neither moved. Go on then, Eric said, indicating the passage leading back to Leafspawn in the wood. He'll be long gone from here, I imagine. Eric felt the tension shift as Bergen increased his guard. You're letting me go, just like that. Just like that. Neither man lowered his weapon. Eric assessed the Leosaphar, whose alertness hadn't waned. Bergen took a step into the stables, and Eric mirrored his footwork. As Bergen shifted from the corridor, Eric slipped into the hall to leave Bergen's path clear, and both men with a safe amount of space between them. With nerves wrought high and both men armed to attack, they stepped back, ensuring their eyes never left their opponent until Eric was deep in the shadows of the corridor, and Bergen was several paces into the stables. Only then did Bergen turn and walk from the stables back to the Leafspun, his men, and the wood. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Again, I will go ahead and have the links available. Again, it is on sale for 99 cents ebook and $12 and change, down from $18, which will go back up to its regular price January 1st of 2016. Happy holidays, and I will be back in a moment with Broken.